It's Nicola here on day 7 of the Disasters Emergency Committee's East Africa Crisis Appeal. And I'm thrilled to announce that the fundraising total since we launched a week ago has now reached £26 million. That's a fantastic effort, so thank you so much, British public, for all of your support. I'm joined today by my guest, Alexander Matheou from the British Red Cross. So welcome, Alexander.
Thank you.
We've seen on our screens a lot about this crisis and devastating pictures of children dying or in the process of dying from starvation. How severe is this crisis?
Well, there are 16 million people in the Horn of Africa who do not know where their next meal is going to come from, or where or how they can access clean drinking water. Within that huge number, there are millions of personal tragedies. Families experiencing great pain, parents watching their children in great pain. When you reach those numbers, that is definitely what we would call a very severe humanitarian crisis.
And one of the things that we've read about and seen on our screens is that there's been a number of factors causing this crisis. Conflict has certainly been a factor, but also drought. Is this the worst drought on record?
It's a good question, but a hard one to answer, because the reason why these crises become humanitarian crises is not because the rains fail. There's a whole backstory here. The pastoralists of the Horn of Africa could once upon a time live in very difficult circumstances. The crises in the Horn of Africa never really stop. They just move up and down in severity. But they could cope through a strategy of mobility. They could move around looking for pasture and water. That strategy has been stopped over the last 40, 50 years because of national borders, privatisation of land. At the same time, the population has increased dramatically, 5 times. So you have 5 times more people still living in the arid lands, but with their mobility curtailed. On top of that, you have conflict, which has resulted in mass population movements. So people have abandoned their livelihoods and become either dependent on aid or dependent on the hospitality of others. And they have lost, often due to conflict, their ability to grow food or their ability to manage their herds. On top of that, security stops, or at least makes difficult humanitarian access, which means it's very hard to deliver aid where it's needed the most. So that combination of a lifestyle which is no longer as viable as it once was, the impact of population increasing, the impact of population movement, the difficulty to access hard to reach communities, it's that combination that turns a drought into a humanitarian crisis.
And I've also seen reported in the media that cholera and waterborne diseases are a particular problem as well at the moment. Can you tell us more about that?
Again, that is often a matter of severity. Cholera is sadly common to the Horn of Africa, and incidences occur pretty much every year. But now the scale of it has increased dramatically. As water points dry up, or as populations are forced out of the places where they usually live, where they get water from is compromised. They may end up digging in dry rivers. They may end up, and very often do, sharing water points with their animals, where sick animals are drinking from the same water and dying in the same water points that children are drinking from. And it's that reduced ability to access clean water which compromises the health of increasing numbers of people in the Horn of Africa, triggering large numbers of outbreaks of people affected by cholera.
And do you think cholera and the risk of waterborne diseases, is this going to get worse?
Sadly, it's hard to see how it will not get worse unless the aid operation is scaled up dramatically, because people will have to drink. And if they are not near anywhere where they can drink safely, they will drink unsafely. And that is going to trigger more incidents of cholera until water can be trucked in, until water points can be made safe, and until boreholes can be repaired.
And how is the Red Cross helping? What is it doing on the ground to alleviate especially the problems with water?
Well, whenever you have a crisis like this, the best placed organisations, like many of the DEC members, are ones that are already there, working long term with these communities. And the International Committee of the Red Cross has the largest humanitarian logistics operation in South Sudan. It serves over 1 million people in Somalia. The national organisations such as Kenya Red Cross will be serving 1 million people with cash, food and water and sanitation support. The national network of clinics in Somalia, managed by the Somalia Red Crescent, will be scaling up their health support to affected populations. So really that's what the aid community does in these contexts, which are always difficult. They are there for long-term resilience work, and they scale that up in times of emergency.
So one of the things we've been asking our donors for is £60, which we've said provides clean drinking water for 2 families for a month. So that's one of our key donation asks has been, can you explain to our donors what that £60 would be spent on if they gave it to us?
Well, the best way to get clean drinking water to people now is actually to truck it in.
Yeah.
That is actually quite expensive, as you can imagine. It's a difficult terrain, and trucking in enough water to keep large numbers of people safe and alive is difficult. However, it is quick and it has an immediate result. Alongside that, chlorinating affected water points, rehabilitating boreholes, these will also take place. So you'll see a combination of strategies to try and ensure that people have safe drinking water, but trucking will be one of the main ones at the moment.
Well, thank you, Alexander. So as we've been discussing, £60 could provide clean drinking water for 2 families for a month, and Alexander has explained how vital that is. So please do keep your donations rolling in. I wanted to give a special shout out today to viewers of Channel 4 News and readers of the Daily Mirror. Both of those outlets featured strong coverage and stories yesterday about this crisis, and their viewers and readers have responded incredibly generously. So thank you so much. You have helped contribute to our fantastic fundraising total of £26 million so far. But much more is needed. This is an immense tragedy unfolding, and if we don't act soon, it'll get worse. So please don't delay, donate.